Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another YouTube reflection, and this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, we're sitting on a part 3 to some YouTube content that I took in from the INTJ John about INTJs Love ISTJs. I'm not going to do any setting that up because I'm only giving myself 15 minutes for the reflection. So this is part 3. I listened to his content. There are 13 things that I have on a piece of paper that I wanted to respond to. And in parts 1 and 2, I only dealt with point 1. And point 1 was his comment about for INTJs and ISTJs, you get to know, you meet them through the TE because that's their extroverted function, but you get to know them through the FI. And my goodness, that generate 2 healthy reflections, one about work. I called it a TE-FI affair at work. And then there's one dealing with some family trauma stuff. So what I'm going to do in this reflection, part 3, is I'm going to attempt to talk about point 2 on my list. And I don't know what we're going to do about the other 11 items. But part 2 on my list is loving and INTJs loving an ISTJ. I was in 2 10-year relationships. That second 10-year relationship, which ended 5 years ago, was with an ISTJ. And I wasn't going to listen to this content because I don't need to bring that person up in my brain, my consciousness or active consciousness. But I'm glad I listened to it because there was just so much. And I've been really, really intrigued about, actually last night I went to bed really just wanting more about tertiary FI, right? Because it's there. It's there. It's just not in the top of the stack. But it's not inferior. And I just don't think there's enough information out there about how that tertiary FI shows up. So I think that's one of the other reasons why I went to listen to this INTJ Love and ISTJ. But it's there. I loved an ISTJ for 10 years. And so I want to just spend some time just speaking a little bit about some things that the INTJ John said that I completely agree with, and I haven't heard anybody else say it, so that's exciting. The first thing I really loved first thing I want to say this is when I met my ex, this is the reason why I stayed in that relationship a lot longer than I needed to. And people, when they say, I can't believe you were in that relationship that long. And I'm going to tell you why. I couldn't tell you why then the way I'm about to tell you now, but it's the same. It's true all the same. My ex and I were beautiful with TE together. Now, I will also say TE was, the TE dynamic was also my downfall. And I think that's because there is a conversation that we need to have in a type community about energies, masculine and feminine energies. And I know my other favorite YouTube person, the INTJ academic, Sarah Psych, but I call him the INTJ academic. He talks about feminine and masculine energies. I'm not trying to talk about it the way he does. I haven't studied it well enough, but I think that there's something there. So my ex had a masculine treatment of TE, and I had probably a more feminine treatment of TE, which is hard for me to say out loud because I do believe the TE part of me is the masculine part of me. But I think juxtaposed to my ex, who also was auxiliary TE, I didn't have as much masculine TE energy as my ex did. So as a result, it pulled on the feminine part of me, which was really my undoing. So you've listened to me, if you followed my podcast over the past 3 years, I've talked about TE recovery because I think my TE was hit hard because it's my masculine energy. And then coming up against somebody else's TE that was more masculine. And so it was a love-hate kind of relationship. But I will say this, it was more love because out of all relationships that I've been in, I'm 52 years old, and I've not been in a lot of relationships, but I'm 52 years old. I've had relationships, okay? And all of those relationships would say, you're different. Like I was odd, right? And so here was a situation where I wasn't odd. My ex and I, we were teeing it up. And like when we had big projects to do, oh my gosh, we would like I would say mastermind it. Like that thing would be planned out because as the INTJ John said, my NI would allow us to go like have the big picture, the big vision, the big destination, and I would use my TE for that. And my ex was SI Dom, was very detailed, making sure that we were going to be safe, and used the TE for that function. So we had, to me, together, we had the best of both worlds. With NI and SI attached to our TE, there was nothing that we didn't have covered. And so that was so enticing for me. The fact that I could TE in a relationship and that wasn't, as a woman, and that wasn't considered to be problematic for the most part. And then the fact that my ex really appreciated that big picture part of me, that long range vision part of me. And I absolutely loved the SI part of that relationship because, and I honestly think I'm still recovering from that, the SI component. I think I've made some decisions that are SI. That's something I've been really contending with. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm stuck doing employments for the last 5 years when I need to get back out as an entrepreneur, because there was something in the SI world that I grew to appreciate. It's very comforting. It is very safe, right? Because an SI is going to attend to all of the physical things that I'm like, oh, you know, even though I'm not going to prioritize it, who wouldn't want to feel safe in the world? You know, who wouldn't want to feel comfortable? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can feel safe and comfortable. I never knew that this is a feeling, right? So my ex could bring that to me and I'm like, oh, I fell in love with the feeling of safety and comfort. And which is why 5 years later, I'm still struggling with trying to do that for myself and still trying to do big picture. And they just can't. They just can't. And so you have to follow the podcast to know that I'm about to move back into entrepreneurship. There's something that happened this week that just really sealed the deal. I don't want to talk about it, but I think it has taken a long time for me to, let me put it differently. I think I had to have the experience that I had this week to push me out of, like, I've been in an SI trance because I fell in love with the comfort and the security that the SI provided. And I think my mother is auxiliary SI. My mother is an ESFJ. She's auxiliary SI. You know, I think two of my aunts are SI. So I grew up in an SI space. And I actually believe I'm part of an SI culture. So I think it's just something that I'm going to value, but I never knew how to get it. And here's the other piece that I never considered. Coming from intergenerational trauma, I never had SI stability. So I never had it enough to really I could have some of the SI values swimming around me, but I never really could experience any SI perks because I didn't have the stability, because our life, my childhood was unstable because of the trauma, you know, my mom being divorced and being a single parent, trying to take care of two kids, being young. And, you know, so my grandmother provided much of that, but she was my grandmother. Okay. So here comes this relationship of 10 years and I could sit in that for 10 years. Oh my gosh. Right. And so I think this has probably been the most honest reflection about what I've been doing in the aftermath of that relationship and why I think I've been straddling in this employment space a lot longer than I needed to, because I think the reality of it is that it has created a SI kind of lifestyle that on one hand, I do know it's holding me back. I talk about having to take that trash can and roll it out to the curb every week. See, that trash can, I live in a house now, and we have to roll out the trash can on a certain day of the week, and then we have to roll it back. That represents stability. I live in a house. This is what I do every week. Every week, that's stability. But it's been driving me crazy because I'm like, oh my God, I need more to life than just rolling this damn trash can out every week and rolling it back. But what's also attached to that is all of these other pieces of comfort, right? And we talked about me being able to buy big bundles of toilet paper, right? All of that is coming out of SI. And I've been having a hard time walking away from that, but it's putting a cramp on my style because I'm an NI dom, and I'm thinking, and so here's the problem. Because I'm an INTJ, there's nothing I can't mastermind. So in my mind, I'm going to mastermind both worlds. I'm going to have some of these SI perks that I fell in love with from having a relationship. I don't want the relationship, but I want these perks. And then I'm still going to be able to do my NI stuff. And I am, but it's turbulent. So what I had to come to this week is, what's most important? Is it more important for you to mastermind the balance between an SI NI life, or is it important for you to have the life that you're supposed to have as an NI dom and do the damn work there? So that's going to come up in my weekend reflection, I'm pretty sure, because that's been a major breakthrough. But I just said all of that to say that I think this is the piece of the relationship that was just, it was just enticing. It was enticing. We had mealtime together, and we took a walk together. We just had some routines that were very comforting, and I fell in love with those things. And so there was the TE, there was the dominant function. I'm like, don't slip into that, because I don't want to start romanticizing it, because there were definite problems. And so, but I just wanted to, I think that's all I wanted to say about that relationship before I get in trouble. Hold on a second. I think the last thing I want to say, which is something I'm probably going to need to spend some more time to make it make sense, but one of the points he has, this is point number 4 on my list. He said ISTJs can explain their feelings better than INTJs. And that's because they have the sensor at the top of their stack. I thought that was interesting. Like, we're both tertiary feeling, but because they're sensing, they're sensors, they can attend to those emotions and they can explain them. And I was like, that's interesting, because I've had to learn to articulate my emotions. I've had to learn to identify when I'm having emotions through my body, through my physical environment. And it is something that I'm very proud of, but it's still work that I have to do. And I was like, oh, wow. And I think this is the other thing. I felt the most disconnected. Okay. Another thing he said in his content, although the ISTJ can name their feelings faster, the ISTJ is disconnected from those feelings or disconnected from other people's feelings. I don't really know how that works, but I can definitely see that with my ex. So I then had to carry the feelings for both of us. And that was a lot for me. And I couldn't identify my feelings. But then I had to carry the feelings. It was just too much. It really created an unhealthy space, an unhealthy situation. And so I'm pretty sure my intergenerational trauma impacted that. I believe my ex came from some trauma, but had not spent time really digging into that. And so I just think that all of that together. Otherwise, would I date another ISTJ? Absolutely. And here's where I'm going to close. What he says at the start of his video is that INTJs can see the commonality with the ISTJs. ISTJs cannot see that with us. And if I dated another ISTJ, they would have to be able to appreciate how we are similar and how we complement each other. But absolutely, I would date another ISTJ, but through a commitment to be healthy. You guys, if this reflection has had any value for you, please give it a heart. If my moving about talking about the relationship, loving and being in relationship with a ISTJ, TE, feminine, masculine, and that NI-SI dilemma or gifts, if you will, if that resonates to a conversation you had in the world, please take this link and share with those participants. If my moving about has caused some randomness and I'd love to hear it, you can find me on my website at yournidom.wordpress.com or my long form reflection podcast at yournidom. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you. Until I come back, be well. Bye.